Hello everyone. I'm Vivek, and the topic of my presentation is the potential of APV in India and the socio-economic prospects. Now, we have to look at it in the context of sustainability in India. So, as most of you would probably be aware, India has 16% of global population, but only 2.4% of the land and only 4% of global fresh water. So, we have high temperatures, reducing crop yields. We have aquifers that are depleting, water is becoming alkaline. We have a lot of regions where you can only grow single crops, and there's loss of arable land due to desertification. And climate change is making most of this and almost all of this even worse. So in that context, now agrivoltaics emerges as a solution that addresses sustainability in an integrated manner. Now, there are a few different advantages that APV will provide, but I'm going to focus most of my talk on the possibility of having higher crop yields and crops that are resilient to climate change. So let's see how this happens. Now, if we look at the energy balance of crops, so you can see that there's incoming radiation, which is being balanced out in different ways, which includes transpiration, evaporation, and conduction through the soil. And then this results in a certain crop temperature and soil temperature. Now you introduce solar panels in the mix, and that will create a change in the air temperature, the crop temperature, and the soil temperature as well. Now, if we look at this infographic here, this is to show you how much the surface temperatures can change because of shade. So here you have atmospheric temperature of 37 degrees centigrade. And under the full sun, you have 42 degrees surface temperature of this grass stretch over here, and only 31 under the shade of this tree. So 11-degree difference because of the shade. Now, the crop temperature and the soil temperature affect many physiological processes associated or responsible for crop growth and yield. Some of these are the rate of photosynthesis, flowering, the nutrient absorption via roots, and the quality of fruits. And this is not an exhaustive list, this is just the main ones. So let's look at photosynthesis in a bit more detail and how light and temperature affect photosynthesis. Now, this curve here shows the rate of photosynthesis with respect to the light intensity. So the rate will increase with increasing light, but then it tapers off as some other factor, which is usually carbon dioxide, becomes limiting. Now, there's the rate for sun-loving plants, as they classify it, and for shade-loving plants. So for shade-loving ones, you can see that the rate tapers off much sooner at a much lower light intensity. Similarly, there's an effect of temperature on the crop, on photosynthesis as well. And there is an optimum temperature at which the rate is maximum, and below that, it will decrease linearly. But then at higher temperatures, you can see there can be an abrupt fall off in that rate of photosynthesis. Now, if we combine both the effect of light and temperature, and we ran an analysis for cucumbers in the city of Raipur, then you can see the net photosynthesis with respect to the time of day. And the blue line shows the full sun, and the red line shows under APV. So the area under the curve shows the total photosynthesis for the day, and that total photosynthesis is responsible for the biomass and eventually the yield. So the area under the curve for APV is about 20% higher in this case that we're talking about. Now, if you look at the optimum temperature ranges for a few different crops, you'll see that it's like, around 25 degrees. And we all know what temperatures we can get in India in, 5 or 6 months of the year, and during the daytime, much, much higher. So you can see what that would be doing to photosynthesis. Now, coming to the light part of it. Now, this particular plot is for the city of Jodhpur in Rajasthan, which shows the daily light integral, which is the sum of the wattage that is coming on over the course of the day, represented in moles per meter square per day for photosynthetically active radiation. So that's that part of the incoming radiation, the visible part that plants use for photosynthesis. So if you look at this number, we see that without any shade under the full sun, we're getting above 50 moles per meter square. Now, under the solar panels, with a certain ground coverage ratio, we're seeing numbers between 30-35 moles per meter square per day. Now, if we compare this with what the requirement is again for different crops, so you see for grains, it's a bit high. So you really don't want to do grains. But for all vegetable crops, you see that it's actually, the maximum here is about 30. So it's, and most of them are actually less. So you have, even with the shade, you have more light than what's actually needed. So now the goal is to use this information about temperature, shade, to come up with innovative farming models that actually take advantage of that shade. One of which is additive intercropping. And this is not something new. I mean, this was practiced in ancient India, but somewhere down the line, it kind of lost the plot. But it involves complex crop biophysics and agroecology fundamentals, where you're growing more than one crop simultaneously on the same piece of land. And because there is enough light in India and other tropical climates, you can actually do that. This is not something that you would probably try in Europe. But here, you have the advantage of high radiation use, crop diversification, a lot of water savings, and increased soil fertility because of the biodiversity. And some of the specific advantages for crops are the sun, no sunburn, you have a higher leaf area index for leafy vegetables, and for something like ginger, you can have off-season growth, all resulting in higher yield or higher prices. So if you look at what the possible economic value proposition could be for solar developers, so we're talking about capital costs, and we're talking again, in the context that you do this right. So you could have heavy structures, but then you could have the good ones. So you have capital costs that are probably about 12 to 15% higher. You can have agricultural profits in the range of 1.25 to 1.75 lakhs per acre. You have synergies in civil infrastructure, mounting structure, synergies in panel cleaning costs, and then a potential increase in solar generation as well because of the reduced temperatures leading to panel efficiency and the bifacial gain because of the better, more suited geometry of the panels here. All this can add up to a 3 to 4% higher return on equity for solar developers. Now, if we look at this from a more socio-economic perspective, then the dual use of land in itself is very important. So India at the moment has 25 million acres of land under vegetable farms, which is equivalent, you could have about 5,000 gigawatts of energy if you use all of this. So even if you use 10% of it, you'd have 500 gigawatts, which is enough electricity for a long, long time. The other major thing is the higher income for farmers. So the farmers here, instead of having all that risk of agriculture, they can lease the land to the developer, make money from that, gain employment in the same farm. So again, money without any risk, and then helps in a thriving rural economy. And the most important part is the increase in the yields, leading to increase in the agricultural productivity, which has it manifests itself in many, many benefits. And the water savings because of lower evaporation. What we believe it's up to 30-35% of water savings, and that again helps in increasing the productivity by bringing marginal lands back into agriculture. So now quickly a couple of slides on the company, on what we do as SunSeed. So we have created technology platform where we've created a microclimate simulation and a light shading simulation, which gives us, the information on, and this can be done for any site, any place in the world, for any time of the year. So based on these simulations, you figure out what crops you want to grow, and then you feed that all into some of these crop simulations models that are out there, like STEEX and DSStat, so you can get a bankable crop yield. So the goal is not to just increase the returns for the project, but you have to show that it's bankable. Otherwise, there's no one to finance these projects. And the other aspect again is to figure out the panel surface temperature and the bifacial gain to again get a bankable solar yield because of what changes in APV. And so we were doing these simulation models, and then we also, because the farming is complex, so we would do the ongoing farm operations as well, including the agricultural sales. And the other major thing that we provide is lightweight mounting structure. So as Max just said, one of the main cost, the extra cost of an APV project is the structure, if you want to raise it high and do APV in the proper way. So we have cable technology, which is proven through not APV projects, but other projects that we've done using this technology. So we've done a project over a canal in Punjab, over a field in Rajasthan, and these are 10 to 30 meter spans using cables, which significantly reduces the cost by about 25 to 30%, depending on the span. And we have integrated specific APV features that actually would help the agriculture as well. So that's it from me. Thanks a lot for having me here. Thanks for listening. And here's my information if you'd like to get in touch to discuss any of these things we just talked about. Thank you.